Welcome to Scary Stories. We're doing something special this week. From now through this coming Tuesday, we're running very obscure old episodes from exactly 5 years ago this month. Episodes which have been long deleted, now brought back and dusted off for your entertainment. We're doing this so that we can get one full week ahead of time on shows. That way, if and when I get sick again, maybe you won't have to miss as many episodes as what just happened in March. Again, I'm sorry I was so under the weather then. I hope I'm good to go from now through autumn. We've already given you a preview on the community page of what's to come for the rest of the month. But right now, let's jump in the Wayback Machine and check out what was happening 5 years ago tonight.
The Men in Black and the DOGMAN, as told to Peter Bernard. This story happened a long time ago. I was afraid to tell anyone before, but I'm at the end of my days now, so if they want to kill me, they'd only be saving my family some money for my medical care. This is the true story of how I saw what you now call DOGMAN, and how I was then pursued, harassed, and bullied by the Men in Black. The Men in Black and DOGMAN both took my life and tore it apart in front of my face. They robbed me of my chance for a happy and full life, and they left me with nothing but fear, rage, and paranoia. I hope you take heed as I tell you what happened to me, and I hope that if you ever see DOGMAN or the Men in Black, that you are able to get away from their sight before they become a fixture in your life from then on. DOGMAN is a sign of evil being present in an area, and the Men in Black? The Men in Black are the living embodiment of that evil. Back in the early 1960s, I had just come to America from Ireland and got a job working in a restaurant managed by a distant relative in New York. I made friends with a very rich regular customer and got myself a better job working in one of his offices. This job came with a vacation, and I decided to take my first vacation camping alone in the forest. Why would a single man choose to take the first vacation of his life alone where he could not meet a potential mate? Why not go on a singles cruise or something more socially oriented? To this day, I don't know, but I had been dreaming of camping in the forest for months, and I was incredibly excited to finally have the opportunity. When I arrived at the location, which I had picked off a map like I had been there before, I was absolutely thrilled. I set up my camp and sat down to breathe a sigh of relief and roast some Italian sausage for dinner over the fire I had built. As the sun went down, though, I began to feel like a veil was being lifted off of me, and I no longer felt like it made any sense at all to be out here. I was exposed. I was vulnerable. Anything could get at me there. Why would a sane person have come to this place? These were the kinds of thoughts going through my head. I was in a state of near panic. I tried to quiet my fears, but a voice in my head was screaming at me to pack up and get back to civilization immediately. I went inside my tent and I tried to force myself to sleep. I think I had actually slept a little because I remember waking up to a light so bright that I could see it just as brightly when I closed my eyes. It filled my tent, seeming to come from above me somewhere. I was absolutely terrified and I just sat there frozen. And then, just as quickly as it had come on, the light turned off. And I continued to sit there, in the pitch dark, completely frozen. What was that? I still to this day have no idea what that was or even how that effect could have been caused. A light so bright it makes your eyelids irrelevant, yet doesn't damage your eyes, and it appears randomly in the middle of the woods? What was that? So I was unable to sleep, but I laid down, shaking hard in fear like I was freezing to death. I felt like I had no blood in my body. I was so scared. At points I wanted to cry, but I was unable to unfreeze enough to accomplish that. It was around then that I started to hear the howling. It sounded like a dog, or maybe a few dogs. Maybe there were wolves or coyotes or something, but they sounded as though they were within the canine family. Again, why was I there? Sleeping out in an alley would even make more sense. In both cases, I'd be vulnerable to diseased wild animals, but in a garbage-strewn alley, at least I'd be in the city and close to police and medical attention. It now seemed really strange to me that I had dreamed of coming to this very place for months, when I never camped before, and I had never been in this woods before either. I felt like someone played a trick on me getting me out there, but that was crazy talk. How could someone else have made me dream about this place and want to come here so badly? Bam! Something hit my tent, and then I could hear it running away. No, him. I could hear him running away, because that sounded like a man. A big man, too. His footfalls were very heavy. Bam! Now something hit the other side of my tent and ran off in a different direction. There was no way it could be the same man. The second attack came too soon after the BAM! Something hit my tent from a third direction, and I realized I was surrounded. In my mind, it made sense to go outside. If they wanted to shoot me, they could do it through the tent. Maybe if I came out, I could reason with whoever these people were. Because of how quickly they ran, I imagined they were teenagers. Because of how heavy their footfalls were, though, I figured they must be football or basketball players. Nervously, I came out of the tent and looked around. I didn't see anyone, not in any direction. There was a tree line on 3 sides, maybe 300 feet away, like a small baseball field. On the 4th side was where I parked my car, about 75 feet away on a dirt road leading back to the highway. I heard a branch break and quickly turned my head to see someone moving in the trees off in the distance. I now heard sounds in multiple directions and caught glimpses of people who all seemed to be wearing the same dark clothing. Then, the most incredible thing happened. One of the people ran out of the forest at me. It was as though they weren't there and then they were. He burst out of the woods like it was a starting gate. Suddenly he was running toward me and his tongue was hanging out of his mouth. He had a wild expression in his completely opened eyes, and his mouth was filled with long, sharp teeth like a wild animal. My eyes and brain focused on this man wearing dark gray running at me, looking insane. He had some kind of headgear on that made his head look like a dog's head. His clothes, they weren't clothes. They were fur. This was a fur-covered man with a dog mask on, that's what I was thinking. Then 1 second later, the guy made eye contact with me. And he screamed. I fell backwards, so forceful was his scream, almost like a physical punch. He ran past and I was already crawling toward my car. That guy didn't have a mask on. That was his actual head. I had to get into my car, and I had to drive. Don't look behind you. Don't look behind you. Don't look behind you. Do not look behind you. I kept repeating to myself as I ran to my vehicle. When I reached the door, though, I looked behind me. There were at least 3 dog-headed men with insane looks in their eyes, tongues hanging out, fangs flashing, running toward me faster than any human could run. My knees gave out from under me, and I think that was when I soiled myself, but I had the wherewithal to get the car key and the car door from my position on the ground and to drag myself into the car. I got the door shut just as the dogman overtook my car, slamming into it in 3 places and causing a crack in one of the windows. I was crying and hyperventilating, trying to start the ignition before I passed out from the stress. I had to turn it a few times, but I got the car started and I drove. At this point, I noticed that these dogs were literally trying to chew their way into my car. They had made some progress, too, while I was trying to get the engine started. At this stage of the game, exhaustion, frustration, and fear gave way to extreme annoyance and indignation. I screamed, floored the car, started swerving back and forth, trying to cause the hairy men to slip off or slam into trees next to the dirt road. I was now laughing like a Peter Lorre character, only barely clinging to the last bit of my sanity. There was one of them, one of the dog-headed monsters, clinging to the front windshield with his face directly in front of me, his body blocking my view of the road. In my near insanity, I studied every single hair on his horrific head. It did not have yellow eyes as I've been reading about in Dogman accounts online lately. It had dog eyes, but wide-eyed, angry, or terrified-looking dog eyes. It made expressions I've never seen on any canine, seeming to glare at me 1 second, then grin whenever it detected fear in my face. It gloated, it smirked, it bared its teeth to great effect. Then it would seem to smile and almost laugh, followed a second later by smashing its head into the windshield, trying to get through and bite my face right off my skull. I could see and sense that this was his goal. Bam! One of its fists slammed hard into the windshield, awakening me to the fact that he did indeed have hands. What I mean by that is, his paws were not paws. They had claws that I think were retractable like a dog, but the claws were at the ends of fingers on a furry hand. When you've lost your sanity and think you're in the process of dying, time can sometimes slow down and you languish in every single detail of the moment, which you might otherwise possibly have glossed over or ignored. This thing in front of me had massive shoulders, like a circus strongman, but without any body fat at all. I've never seen such a magnificent creature, but its behavior was that of something crazed or possibly diseased. It seemed driven into a frenzy. It seemed driven more by hate than hunger. It wanted to kill me, but why? For sport? There was no joy in its eyes. It was deriving no enjoyment from this. Why would this thing hate me enough on first sight to want to kill me, and in such a savage manner? And why would at least 3 of his brethren have joined him? To my left, the driver's side window cracked loudly, a white lightning bolt type shape appearing from its top and extending down past the bottom of where I could see. Outside the window, a different dog-headed man grinned in a sick way at me and started headbutting the glass. This one had lighter gray streaks mixed in with its darker fur and reminded me of my pet from when I was a small boy. I didn't want to be killed by this dog who brought back such sweet memories. I took a hard, sharp left, and the dogman was smashed into a passing tree that also completely ripped up the finish on that side of the exterior. I laughed like a madman. No, it would be more correct to say that I had been driven mad, and that I was laughing the laugh of the truly insane. There were 2 dogmen left clinging to my speeding vehicle. One was hanging from the bumper and one was on my windshield still. I looked at that thing in the eyes. I asked it if it wanted to die. It smashed its head into the glass over and over and over and over. I decided to take that as a yes, and I slammed on the brakes as fast as I could. The dogman in front held on tight, its eyes wider than ever. The one in the rear seemed less prepared for my maneuver as inertia sent it flying forward, smashing its head hard into my back windshield, flipping over the car roof and slamming straight into the face of the dogman on the car's front hood. Both of them landed on the road in front of me, and I ran over their bodies in my attempt to escape. I am absolutely certain I did not kill them, but only stunned them long enough that I could drive off. I remember driving and crying and screaming threats at any dogman who might be chasing me. I expected to get hit from more angles, and I kept swerving the car around, overly paranoid at where the next hit might come from. When I reached the turnoff onto the highway, my heart jumped when I saw the silhouette of 2 humanoid figures there, blocking my entrance to the road, blocking my escape from Dogman Forest. I'm a bit ashamed to say that at first I hit the gas pedal, looking to slam through those 2 figures and get out of there. As I got closer, though, I could see they were not more dogmen, but 2 guys in suits. Black suits. They looked like cops or feds, and I slowed down the car, stopping in front of them and rolling down my window. They started off with an accusatory tone, asking me if I knew this was federally protected wildlife area. I said no. They asked me why I was deliberately disturbing the flora and fauna and made me produce ID. I was taken with them to their car, blindfolded, to a location somewhere, I don't know where. They held me for what must have been a few days, in rooms with no windows. I soon lost track of time, and they eventually broke me, getting me to tell them what had happened with the dogman. After that, they started playing recordings in my room, repeating over and over again that I saw nothing. I don't think these men were from our government, at least not any part of it paid for by taxes. They told me they knew I was a foreign spy. I told them I wasn't. They said if I talked about what I hadn't seen, then they would let the authorities know that I was a foreign spy, and then I would be deported. I told them I never saw anything, and they let me go. You would think that would be the end of the story, but about 6 years later, in 1968, I would see these exact same men in black again. It was the very same men who I had seen in 1962, and they wore the same clothes and did not seem to have aged. It was the night I had proposed to my girlfriend that we get married, and she had accepted. On the way driving home back to my place, I saw the two men again, standing out in front of my home. They told me to let them into my home, and I did. They then beat me unmercifully, and when they were done, they said that was what would happen to my wife if I ever talked about what I had seen. Now, this was 6 years after the incident, and I had never told anyone about any part of that. This was entirely inappropriate and uncalled for behavior. I became a nervous wreck, and it ruined my relationship with my fiancé. We eventually had to break off the engagement. I was a bundle of nerves and always looking over my shoulder. I lived alone, barely able to hold down my job and not socializing with anyone. By the early 1970s, I had calmed down enough that I decided to get a dog. That night, I heard the dog howling, and I woke to find men in my bedroom. Turning on the light, it was those same two men in black, and they beat me again. They told me that this is what would happen to my dog if I ever talked about what happened. I gave the dog away. I couldn't deal with the possibility that it might get hurt because of me. And so I lived my entire life, never marrying, never having pets, just doing my job and going home, all in fear of these men in black who don't want me to talk about the dogman that attacked me. By the time I was in my mid-50s, I was unfit for any kind of work, and a relative out in New Jersey took me in. I helped her with things around the house, but I knew I didn't really earn my keep. It doesn't matter anymore now. The doctors say the end of my story is coming up any time. I kind of almost hope those guys come and beat me up again for telling you this. I wonder if they would still look like they hadn't aged all these 50 years since. I wonder if they would answer any of my questions if I asked them. I want to know what they are. I want to know who they are. I want to know what their relationship is with the dogman and why they're covering up for the dogman. But mostly, I just want to understand the facts behind the mystery that is the dogman.
We want to thank our EP Joe, and like Picard, we made it so. Please join us in thanking tonight's executive producer Joe McKella, who is a channel member and also recently sent us a super thanks. These days especially, we depend more than ever on you guys, our viewers and subscribers, to keep us afloat. If you'd like more info on how you can help us stay online, just listen to what our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman, has to say. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.